So during COVID-19, there's been a lot of attention on the plight of small business. Our next guest is someone who has devoted his entire career, and especially the last few weeks, to helping small businesses get through this. Please welcome Paul Pendergast. Paul, welcome to The Great Pause.
Thanks so much, David, and great to see you.
You too. You know, we both have had a long career here in San Francisco in the Bay Area. Over 30 years, I believe we've known each other. For our viewers, give us a little bit of your background. And specifically, I know you were involved with the GGBA and a lot of other groups, specifically helping the LGBT small business community.
Sure. So I was president of the Golden Business Association, which is the world's first LGBT chamber of commerce back in 1994, went away to do some other things, then came back. And I serve currently on the California Small Business Roundtable. I've been a past president of the San Francisco Small Business Network. So yes, my passion and really my love of life is working with small businesses. And of course, these past 8 weeks have been an absolute horrific experience in having to reform and adapt and pivot in order to really stay afloat. So it has been a remarkable past 8 weeks.
Paul, people sometimes say to me, David, you always seem to be so perky and optimistic, but I think you've got that over me. I notice that even when you're talking about this, you still have an optimistic veneer. You're still smiling. How have you kept yourself optimistic in the face of what is going on with COVID-19? And then I want to talk about what you've been doing for small business.
Well, I think, as entrepreneurs, I think we are optimistic. We know that we have been through a lot in the past. The LGBT community, we've gone through the AIDS and HIV epidemic. We have been through life and death situations from a community perspective. But, I really am continually empowered by the sheer brilliance and fortitude that I see in small businesses, from retail to restaurant owners, professional services to construction contractors. So it's easy for me to keep empowered when I'm surrounded by these people who really show amazing grit.
Now, in about 8 weeks or 9, whatever years we're in, are small businesses feeling less panicked? Are they getting the loans? Are they feeling like they're going to be able to retain their clients? Is there more justifiable optimism than there was a few weeks ago?
Well, let's put small businesses in buckets. Those who received the federal loans through the stimulus package, those who did receive the loans, they are feeling a little bit more easy to breathe. But those who were not successful in that process show a significant amount of stress currently. If you were a well-connected, if you knew your banker, you were probably in pretty good shape in regards to getting your application through either the Payment Protection Program or the EIDL program. But if you were a small business who was not participating and didn't have a connection to a banker, then of course you were, and you may still be, in dire straits and not able to really get your application in, not to get it approved. So you're sitting there with a bank account which is drying up or has dried out. So you either have your loan or you don't have your loan. And that's really what is causing a great amount of stress throughout California right now.
So, I hate to say this, but does sometimes it come down to who you know?
I believe that I go back to the haves and have-nots. I think it's, for many minority contractors, which might be, women-owned businesses, African-American, Asian-American, whatever, they may not be really well connected to their banker. And, what's the first rule in business? Know your banker, know your lawyer, and know your accountant. And make sure you have good people on all three fronts. Well, a lot of people were traditionally using, their banks, and they would just, use the teller. They didn't really have somebody they could call up, and that especially at the larger banks. But what we saw happen here in California was a lot of the smaller banks were much more successful in getting the small business loan applications through the program far quicker than some of our large brand name banks that one would have thought would have been our trusted friends. But the small community banks really helped those businesses, and California is so diverse. We really have so many amazing businesses that are underrepresented. So, hats off to those smaller community-based banks who really stepped up when some of the larger banks were having significant challenges.
In our last few minutes,
Mhm.
give us some advice. You're a small business person, you haven't gotten your PPP loan, and you don't know what to do. Or you have gotten your PPP loan, but it's not going to take you through what the total recovery time is going to be. In general, what advice do you give to the small business community in California, which I know you're passionate about and which is, after all, the backbone of our economy? And how long do you think it's going to be before we get to normalcy? And what does that look like in your opinion?
Okay, so first off, for those who have gotten their loans, so we now have tens of thousands of small businesses in California who have received a loan from the stimulus package. People, you must be very careful if you want to get the loan forgiveness approved. Once this is over, you must make very, very excellent use of tracking your documentation. So make sure that you use the funds for what they were intended for, which is, employees and salaries, and make sure you take meticulous notes. So if you want to have that loan forgiven, make sure you take very close notes, work with your CPA and so forth. If you haven't gotten your loan, please be vigilant with your lending institution and keep persistent on that. Now, the second thing is, as the governor starts to roll things forward, where we're having a slow rollout, this is your time to take advantage of opportunities to reform your business, because nothing is going to be the same. Restaurants aren't going to be the same. Distance learning is going to be different. Retail is going to be different. So embrace what is happening, stay up to date, and absolutely work with your community groups, your local chambers of commerce, your local SBA, your small business development centers. We are blessed here in California to have a lot of resources, but you've got to hook in. Don't do things like they were done before. It's a new day, it's a new age. So embrace the change, adapt with it, and learn to thrive. We're California, we're innovation, and we're small businesses. So let's take advantage of this horrific situation we've been given, and let's try to find a way to move forward and create new jobs, because they're going to need small businesses to help dig us out of this incredible recession that we're going to be in.
And how long do you think it's going to take us to dig out of this in round numbers? Are we talking about seeing things start to change in June, July, August? When am I going to be able to sit down at the House of Shields with you and raise a glass without a mask and say, Paul, we're beginning to get out of this?
I've heard many, many very smart people who are great economists, and even they aren't giving any projections. I believe that we're going to see a shift here later this month as the governor starts to relax some of the shelter in place, and then individual counties, individual cities. I don't believe we're going to be out of this until August or September of this year at the top end. And I think it's going to be well into next year that we are going to see any true stabilization from a small business perspective. So we got to be in this for the long haul, David.
So, Paul, in closing, what would be your overall advice to small business in California during this period? Optimistic?
I think we should be very optimistic here in California. We're the world's fifth largest economy. We're going to bounce back from this. We're going to be successful. It'll take time, but we're going to be successful.
Great. Thank you, Paul. I'm glad to see there's someone as parentally optimistic as you, because as me, I should say, and that's you. We're going to need it. Thank you, Paul, for speaking to us, but also thank you for your ongoing work on behalf of the small business community here in California, and specifically also the minority, women-owned business, and LGBTQ businesses as well. Keep on keeping on.